How about okie
Oh,
dokie? Admit all.
oh gosh, that's a lot
Yeah,
of people.
that's a lot of people. I'm gonna try and talk Geordie tonight, like you, I think.
Oh,
Empathetic.
well, I'll look forward to that. I'll look forward to that. Let's see how that goes.
I know, yeah. I'll end up like Scouse or something.
Oh, look, there's that Sally. We'll have to talk about somebody else. Hey, I'm Sally.
Hello, how are you?
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Marvellous.
Good evening, everyone. There's still quite a few people waiting to log in, but there's so many of you. Hello. Give us a wave if you can see us, okay? Amazing. So there's quite a few new people here who might not have been to Ask Becky before. So Ask Becky is a weekly drop-in Zoom session for PDIs, ADIs, where you can come and you can ask any questions you've got. You can just be nosy. You can listen to other people. You can network with other people. And it's a really lovely community that we've built. There's quite a few people on here that come every week. So it's to see you guys as well. So tonight we have a special guest. And I don't know if you can tell who that is, but we have Bob Morton with us. So if I can ask you all, because there's so many of you here tonight, if I could ask you all to please mute your microphones just for now. Sometimes it could be a bit loud hearing everyone's background noise.
What, me too?
If you just for now, Bob, yeah. No, I'm kidding. It could be a bit loud having everyone. So what you can do, if you've got a question or a comment at all, stick it in the chat, or if you want to unmute, you are more than welcome to. Just stick your hand up on the either put your hand up if you like, or the little virtual hand, and then I'll get to you. We've had loads of questions sent in, which is brilliant. So I'm going to start with those ones for you, Bob, if you're ready.
Yeah, fire away.
And if you guys want to chip in, join in, if you've got any comments, any questions, just stick them in the chat or stick your hand up. Okie dokie. So first of all, hi Bob, how are you?
I'm bloody marvellous. It's the others.
Bloody marvellous. Good.
I've
Amazing.
had too much coffee. I'm feeling a little wired. I've had far too much coffee this afternoon.
And we all get to benefit from that tonight. How great is that?
You haven't heard it yet.
I've heard a bit. It's going to be good. Okie dokes. Right, let's crack on then, because we have got a lot so far. So this is the first question that was sent to me from someone that is on this evening. Bob, in your experience, if a pupil starts veering towards the curb or a vehicle, and we as the instructor miss where the pupil is looking due to focusing on keeping everyone safe, is it bad form to genuinely ask the pupil where the pupil was looking due to us not checking? Would an examiner look down on this?
I wouldn't think so. And it isn't just really about asking that question. It's what comes after it. I think I sat in on some training this afternoon. Lovely instructor stuff, but he just seemed to be tying himself in knots and overthinking things, which is very common in our industry. So I think it's a great question to ask. Just maybe I'd pull over and just say, just pick something on the road there where it is that you're looking. Because I'll, as same as everybody else, I'll have a bit of an idea about where they're looking, i.e. not far enough. So I think it's a great opener. You can also, I think a supplemental question there might also be, how are you judging how far to be away from X, Y, Z, whatever it is? How are you deciding how much room to leave?
Absolutely. I'll give the person who sent me that a second if they want to unmute and speak any further, elaborate any further. No. Yeah, there he is.
That was me, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that, Bob. Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those things where I do ask that and I just think, well, part of me thinking I'm worrying about the examiner.
Oh, Nick, I've just muted you by accident. Unmute yourself. Sorry. Yep.
Where do we get to?
Worrying about examiners.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I was just worrying about the examiner thinking, well, why aren't you watching the pupil? But there's that part of me that's thinking, well, I can't, in a situation like that, I can't do two things at once, especially on narrow country roads. I've got to ensure that we are hitting that small gap, and obviously you maybe grabbing the wheel and making sure. And it's just one of those things where I'm just thinking, if me asking where they're looking and I'm being genuine and say to, look, I don't know where you're looking, I feel like I'm sort of not doing my job fully by asking.
Well, let me, if you don't mind, let me throw something at you then. Let's assume that you're on your standards check stroke part 3, and you've asked that question, and the examiner is thinking to himself, what a knob. How can you recover?
What maybe say, look, I was more sort of thinking about keeping us safe. I just missed it. I'm human. I didn't have the chance to look where you were looking because I was more bothered about making sure we were safe and the oncoming vehicle was safe.
And if you were the examiner, what would you think then?
Well, hopefully I'd be thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Well, you'd be like, well, all right, let's assume he thinks you cocked up. Well, maybe you've redeemed yourself.
Yeah.
So it's never over until it's over.
Yeah.
So, and I wouldn't worry so much really about examiners. We spend too much time worrying about them. And of course we can get paralysis that comes from that, constantly looking over your shoulder thinking, oh God, I hope he doesn't mark me down for this. I hope he doesn't mark me down for that.
Yeah.
They're supposed to look at everything holistically. Now, there's an argument to be had as to whether they do or whether they don't. Insert particular examiner there, you know, so it's they're human same as we are. So they mess up the same amount.
Yeah.
Does that help? Did that answer your question? That's the main thing.
Yeah, it's just that sort of, it's the whole sort of feeling that if you do cock up, we're human at the end of the day, or if it's not really a cock up, I suppose, is it? It's just prioritizing in certain situation. As long as you mention it, but it's just that sort of thing I worry sometimes about me not looking enough.
I think that kind of issue, in my opinion, isn't the difference between a pass and a fail. The overall picture is, and they'll forgive you for some drifting away from the path, if you like, as long as generally it's okay.
Right. Okay. Great. Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks, Nick. That was a great question. Thank you. And I'm sure there's other people in that position as well, that is thinking, what will the examiner think? And I was there. I took 4 of them. I know exactly how you feel. It's not fun, but just let's try not to think so much on what the examiner thinks. So the next question that I had sent in, and then I'll come to ones that are coming in on the chat. How do we balance the need for client-centered with the needs to manage risk and progress learning? For example, when the learner wants to do dual carriageways but simply isn't ready.
I have a skills matrix, which is basically the same as the one that's in the LDC driving skills workbook, where we have the skill levels down the left, and then the lessons are all spaced out. So if they're not ready for dual carriageways, it would be fairly obvious from looking at the diagram where you're at this skill level, they're the lessons that we can do. And then you might have a conversation about why you're not doing, dual carriageways today. The classic one that's always thrown against client-centered learning or coaching is, well, what if it's lesson number 2 and your learner says they want to do motorways? You'll have to do motorways, won't you, if you're going to be client-centered? No, that's being client-led. It's a very different thing. Because what they want and what they need, as you all know, not always the same thing. And our job as driver training professionals is to help them identify goals and needs. So it's not just about them feeding into that pot. It's about us feeding into that pot. So in the choice of lesson and the choice of how much responsibility they want to take in any sort of area where, we've just gone around the block and you're working on crossroads and they've just about mowed down a cyclist. And if you say to the pupil, what do you want to do? Should we work on that cyclist thing or should we carry on with crossroads? Oh, I'd like to carry on with crossroads. Well, if you let them do that, then you're a pillock. You've negated your duty as a driver training professional. You should say, well, I'm afraid because it's safety critical, we're going to have to do that. And that's one of the big things you're being assessed on a Part 3 standards check. Are you prepared to override in those circumstances? Because if you don't, you'll fail. It's as simple as that. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think
Went
it
off on
very
a tangent there.
yeah. And you chucked pillock in it as well.
Oh yeah, you know.
Need a pillock. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to a question in the group. Somebody said they've been told by their trainer before to treat the flashing amber traffic light as a zebra crossing. Is that correct?
Just run that past me again.
They've been told by their trainer, treat a flashing amber traffic light as a zebra crossing. Is that correct?
No. I can maybe see what they're thinking about. Yes, but it's not a zebra crossing, is it?
Do you, is it Kamal? Do you want to unmute and tell us a little bit about that?
Hi. Yeah, just treat it as rules. Is there somebody waiting there to cross? Do you have to stop or you carry on?
If the light is flashing amber.
Yeah, and somebody standing waiting to cross.
If they already have a foot on the crossing, then they have priority. If they're not on the crossing, then it's prepared to go. But keep an eye on them. It's like if you're driving down the road, you know, away from any kind of junction, any kind of crossing at all, and a pedestrian stepped out, what would you do?
Yeah.
No, that was a question. What would you do?
Wait.
Yeah, what would you do? You're driving.
Yeah, wait.
Wait.
Then why would you learn to do anything different?
Yeah. Is that in a zebra crossing? If somebody's standing and waiting, do you have to stop for them or carry on?
What does the highway code say?
If they're not stepping a zebra crossing, then you can carry on, is it?
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
The answer to almost everything is in the highway code. Almost everything.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
The next question that I've had sent. I'm very new to this process, prepping for part 1 test right now, and I hear mixed reviews of the industry. Bob, what would you say about the industry right now, and what advice would you give the likes of me? Great question.
Yep. Check carefully anything that anybody tells you, and I include me in that. Do your research. Don't sign a contract unless you know 100% certain that you're aware of every clause in it. Never sign anything without reading it. And don't be scared to ask. If you're thinking about signing up for a training organization or with a particular a trainer as an individual, ask to speak to people who've trained with them. And if they're not prepared to give you that information, walk away. Did that answer the question?
I would have thought so. We'll give them a second if they want to unmute and speak further.
That's just my opinion, of course. Other opinions are available.
Okay, I'll move on to the next. Oh no, yeah, Mark, you've unmuted. Hi.
Yeah, no, I was just going to thank Bob for the answer as much as anything. I think that was really helpful. It does. I mean, it's like any business contract, I guess. Really, you need to understand what you're getting into. The thing as a newbie and coming from a completely different industry, I feel for me the best way is to tie in the training with the franchise or certainly the trainee period on the pink. So you know, that's what I've been telling all the schools that I've been dealing with, that you know, I very much want the two to go hand in hand, and I think that feels like the right way. I perhaps need to do a bit more research.
Yeah, I think it's very important that the training that you get gives you what you need from it. You know, that it suits what you want. And And it's sometimes a pick and mix approach can work. You know, sometimes tying up with a big franchise is okay. Sometimes it's not. You know, there are people who've gone with, say, Bill Plant, for example. You know, there's people who'll tell you they're charlatans, but there's other people who'll tell you they've had a great time with them and they felt supported. A lot of the time it's down to the local trainer. So if you're signing up with a big organization, ask to speak to the person who will be doing your training. If they're not prepared to do it, again, walk away. You know, they should be very, very open and honest with you. There's loads of options for training. And the one big thing, I think, when you're doing your part one, do not see that in isolation. Everything you do in that part one should be thought forward to your part two and your part three. As you're learning the theory of it, think to yourself, well, how am I going to teach this? Is that the way that I drive? You know, because once you reach that part two standard, you should drive at that standard for the rest of your natural days. And people often say to me, well, nobody drives like that all the time. I do. All the time. I don't ride like that all the time, but I drive like that.
Okay, thanks very much.
You're most welcome.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, I'm going to go to one that we got sent in again. This is a good one. What are the most common mistakes training instructors make during the Part 3 ADI test, and how can I avoid them?
It's dead easy. There's no mystery. Just fix some shit. That's simple. That's it. Something goes wrong, fix it. That's it. Lesson planning, all that nonsense doesn't matter. Stuff will go wrong. Fix it, and you'll pass. We're gonna have t-shirts made, aren't we, Becky? Fix some shit.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. All the rest of the questions, the answer is just fix shit. That's it. It's just...
That's it. Just fix some shit. That's it.
Let's go for one that's been sent in again. So I've been on my pink license for 2 weeks. My question, I have a learner who's had 7 hours with me and cannot stop. She brakes gently, but as soon as the clutch goes down, she slams the brake too. 7 hours of this is quite hard going. Any tips that I could try with her? She is dyslexic and struggles with coordination.
Okay, 2 things there. Well, lots of things. Let's unpick it first. Dyslexic, ADHD, all that's a box to put somebody in. Just push that to one side because it's not going to help you. They're doing it for a reason. You'll never instruct them out of it. That will never, ever work. So there's an issue somewhere that's linked probably with clutch control and feel. So, and these things, you can't teach them. You have to experience them. It's like a drop backhand at tennis. Can't teach that. You can feel it. You can develop a feel for it, but you cannot teach it. So what I would do is I would go back several steps to gain clutch mastery and then brake mastery. I want to get up to 30 miles an hour and I want us to stop at varying speeds. So stop slowly, stop middling, stop a bit quicker, middle again, slower, faster, faster. Now let's move away slowly, faster, slow. So we gain mastery of these controls. Because while ever you try and take that learner and put them into other scenarios, this flaw in our skill development will rear its ugly head. And once you get to the like busier junctions, there'll come a day where the circuit breaker just pops and they'll end up crying and you'll have to swap seats. I see it all the time. It's all to do. If you ever think about it, mastery of the clutch, being able to change gear without looking down and being able to stay with your eyes. Everything else you do beyond those 3 things is a combination of those 3 things. So if they're not right, you're building on dodgy foundations. So forget the box to put them in, whether they're dyslexic, this, that, doesn't matter. You have to tackle what's going on inside the head. The thoughts and feelings are creating the behavior. So we need to tackle where the problem is, when they're not able to feel it or thinking different things about it. So ask them what they would do. I did that today with a learner. I was watching a guy and he was struggling. So we pulled over to the side of the road and I just said to the learner, if you were the instructor, what would you do? And she sat quiet for what seemed like 3 days and then went, well, I'm struggling with X, Y, Z. I think I'd like to do a bit of work on that and then come back to junctions. Bingo. So the learner often knows what they need. Because remember, they've lived at least 17 years with whatever the problem is. So they probably know better than we do. But that was a long-winded answer, wasn't it?
It always is, but it's always a pleasure to listen to it. Claire, was that okay? Did that answer your question all right?
Hi, yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you. A few people have put things into the chat as well, so try various things and see what happens. So I've got her at the weekend, so hopefully we'll get her there.
We get very frustrated with it because we want to fix it, but the fix doesn't lie within you. It lies within them.
Yeah.
So you get the learning out, not put it in.
Okay. She's getting very frustrated with herself as well. You know, she really wants to do it and she just wants to keep on trying. And but yeah, I'm gonna take her to a different place and try sort of various different things. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get her there.
Oh,
Amazing.
gosh, I've just seen there's a ton of chat stuff down here at the bottom. I haven't seen that.
Let us know, Claire. Put it in the group. Stick a post up at the weekend how it's gone on, and let us know.
I will.
What's
Thank
this?
you so much.
Can't be a real Geordie because I'm drinking water. How do you know this isn't gin?
Question for you, Bob, that's been sent to me direct. How should the DVSA change the ADI qualification process? We've only got another half an hour, so just
I don't think it needs changing. They just need more examiners. And the answer is very simple. Stop treating them like shit and they'll stop leaving you. It's that simple. Stop enforcing contracts on them to work weekends when that's not the contract they signed.
Keep it as it is. Part 1, part 2, part 3. Keep everything as the same. Let's just have them happening more often.
I personally think the test is the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
And I've worked on all variants since 1988. God, how old am I?
What makes this one the best then?
Because they get you to see you in action with a real learner. And if you do it right, they get to see some magic happen. They get to see you drawing the learning out of that pupil.
Fixing some shit.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, yeah, Bob can't be a real Geordie. Yeah, I've seen that one. Will you be marked down for being proactive on your part 3 when the pupil already knows, for example, asking which lane at the roundabout?
I think it depends. Why are we asking the question?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're asking them which lane at the roundabout and they're already in it, that's a waste of time, isn't it? If they're in the wrong lane and you're asking.
Do you want to unmute to ask anything further about that?
That could probably do with unpacking a little.
Let me ask to unmute.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. Yeah, I asked the question. So I heard that if you're being proactive, like before at the approaching at the roundabout and asking which lane you want to be, so I heard that it's better to just leave them if they already know. So that will be independent. So
I think we always, it's a great question, but I think we have to be careful with our questions when we're asking them things. Why are we asking the question? If you're asking a question to see if they know what you know, I can promise you that's a waste of time. What should we do here? Oh, we should check our mirror. Why should we check our mirror? To see what's happening. Did you check your mirror there? No. Why? I forgot. Waste of time. Waste of time. Tell me what information you need here to make a decision. Where are you going to get that information? That's a very different question. Now I'm seeing what they know, not if they know what I know. So I'm getting the learning out all the time. So when we're asking questions, we have to be careful that it's a good question. And I think good questions are the ones that you don't know the answer to. How are you deciding what speed to travel here? How are you deciding which lane to use? So that last roundabout, you use the left-hand lane. Yeah, do you think that was right? I do. What are you basing that on? So now we're drilling into what's going on inside their head, and we can get more material to work with. And I think one of the big things I always advise people who are working towards a standards check or a part 3, don't look to Facebook for advice. It's full of crap.
Unless you're in the empathetic instructor training group, there's no crap in that one. Let's clear that one. Yeah.
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, would you like to unmute? You've said that you would like to ask a question, so go for it.
Yes, I'm just going to turn on the video as well. Hi guys, thank you very much for being here. So I had a validation today with my trainer, and then I pick a student, and then we agreed that we're gonna working on approaching junction, specifically doing with the left turns, because sometimes she forget to check her mirrors, and so she wants to remind her. And then so when we actually started, so it was in there was quite a lot of meeting situations. So once when she done the left turn, so she was passing the vehicle that was parked on our side of the road, she swing too much, like crossing the right lane. So no, let me clarify that. So it was like a bend to the left, and then the car was parked just before the bend. And then when she moved to the right, she was like passing too much over the center line, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
And then so I let that slide, but I just mentioned that. And then further along down the road, then when she was passing again the parked vehicle on our side of the road, she passed too close to the vehicle. So then I decided to pull up on the side of the road, and we had a discussion. I asked her, like, so why do you think you went so close to the car? And she said, oh, I thought I have enough space. And I said, so do you know like when, how much space you should give? Yeah. And then she said, yeah, so I should be like 2 car lengths away from the car, and then start moving in enough time so there'll be enough big gap between the vehicle and stuff. Yeah. And then after that, then so I thought if I need to adapt a lesson because of that, from like focusing solely on the mirror, just added to that kind of meeting traffic. But then 2 minutes later, she forgot to check her mirror when she was braking. So it was just like, I was like, oh my God, I feel like my head is going to explode because I can't keep up with this. So I was just like, yeah, so I was just like, oh,
so what did you end up doing?
So we were actually, so I picked a road that we were going like left turn, and there was so many meeting situation. So I didn't adapt the road. We were just kind of trying to deal with that kind of thing. Yeah, so make sure she was checking the mirrors. But then, and then after that, like maybe 5 minutes later, when we were taking a whole back position, there was vehicle coming from the opposite side. And then when she wants to move off, she stalled. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh my God, so I don't know what to do now, because I was like, should I adapt? So what should I do now? Should I go back to do maybe a couple hill start to make sure her clutch control is better, and then moving on to the meeting traffic, sorry, yeah. So I was just like, lots of confusion there,
Sure. Okay. There's a lot going on here, isn't there?
I know.
So we start with mirrors. We then have a problem spacing ourselves either too far over to the other side or too close to parked vehicles. Then there's a meet situation that causes a stall. What did you do following that? There's only one thing you need to ask at that point. The one question you need to ask is, what should I do now? So if I was to say to you, you pull the car over, all of that's just happened, what should you do now?
Yeah, so I said, so you moved too close to the car. So I just mentioned the fault.
You mentioned the what, sorry?
So I asked you, why do you think that you were driving so close to the car? And her answer was, I thought I have enough room.
Thought I had enough room, okay, yeah.
And
So
then
what
I
did
asked
you do
her,
with that?
so then I asked her, so how far away from the vehicle you should be,
What did she say?
And she said, I think she said 1.5 meters or something like that, or 2 meters.
Yeah. So do you think she knows what 1.5 meters is?
Yeah, so I point out, yeah, so I was talking about the door length, so if I fully open the door, that's how much space you should have.
Did you get her to open a door?
Sorry?
Did you get her to open her door?
No.
So she doesn't know how far 1.5 meters is.
Right.
This is an abstract concept. Well,
right.
I think the car's doors with, yeah. Oh, I thought we had exactly the same situation today, and I just said, just pull over to the left. Said, ask her, does she think she's got enough room? So he says, do you think you've got enough room? Yeah, she says. So, okay, do me a favour, make sure it's safe. Open your door. She opened it a little bit. I said, push it all the way open. I said, are you leaving that much room? Oh, no. Now she knows. Like, that's how much room I need you to leave. Why do you think I need you to leave that amount of room? So now we're getting into the analysis phase. Well, so that if a car door opens, well, so what could happen if a car door? Well, might hit it, yeah. So it might be scratch paint, might be something worse. At the very least, you're inconvenienced. So we're now giving her a reason for not wanting to do it again. We've shown her how much room it is. Then you follow up by saying, there's a parked car, drive past that and show me that much distance. Right, click save on that, then it's done. Then you can move to the next thing, then you can move to the next. Just to go back a couple of steps, so you're saying you're doing approaching junctions because she's got problems with her mirrors. Why are you not doing a mirrors lesson?
Mirrors lesson?
Yeah.
Because for that we...
what was that problem?
That's my preparation for the, the part 3 test. So
yeah, well, let me tell you that preparation is not what you need. Why are you doing mirrors? That is the question I'm asking. I'm not trying to put you on the block with you. Why are you doing approaching junctions if a problem is mirrors?
Right. Because I think that we can practice the mirrors on that, like doing the left turns.
And did you fix the mirrors?
So she went from guided to prompted.
Did you fix the mirrors?
No.
Then you've wasted your time and hers. You need to think a little clearer here. I'm not having a go at you, by the way, here, mate.
No, of course.
I think it's an interesting point. Fix what needs fixing. If you start lumping other stuff in, like meet situations and junctions, it just clouds the issue. You're spinning the plate that's mirrors. Now you're spinning the plate that's junctions. Then a meet situation. Now we've got a stall, and eventually the plates start dropping. Fix what needs fixing. Okay, we've got an issue with our mirrors here. We need to work on that, don't we? Oh, I think they're okay. Well, I'm telling you they're not. Why do we check mirrors? So you would override. You would drill into what needs fixing, fix it, and then move to the next thing.
But
you're giving yourself too much to do.
But how can we practice on the mirrors then, if not on junctions?
I don't know. You tell me. You're the driving instructor.
So will we just go in a straight line?
Well, where would you start? Where is a problem?
So sometimes she signal and then checks them.
Is that a problem?
I think so, because you should check them first and then signal.
Why?
Just to make sure it's safe, I guess.
Okay, what makes it safe?
So there's no one in the, like if you're turning left, there's no cyclist or anything in her left mirror.
So you're trying to get her to remember to do some stuff. Does she remember?
Yeah, so she does remember about the cyclists and like the risks and stuff. Like
Does she remember about her mirrors?
No.
How's that working for you?
Not very well.
That's right. So you've got to work on things that do work. So you've got time before your test to start playing around with this stuff. So if you really want to, if you're struggling to find, well, how am I going to do it? What is it I'm looking for? What do you do? So when you're coming up to a junction, when do you check your mirrors? Why do you check it then? Are you doing it just because somebody told you that's what needs to be done? Because you don't fail the test if you go signal mirror, if you've already checked the mirror earlier on. It doesn't have to be, mirror signal all the time, as long as you're aware of what's around. Because what the examiner is looking for is, did you take effective observation? So if you've been driving down the road in a straight line, mirror, 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 examiner says take the next road on the left, you go signal mirror, you'll never fail for that because you were up to date with what was happening. So mirrors are for information. So we can have a conversation with the people about, where do we get information from? What do we need the information for? What do we do with that information? How does that information keep us safe? Then we're starting to maybe get them to think for themselves, I need information, so I need to check there. Rather than, if you give people stuff to remember, they'll forget. How many times, and I used to be the same, you pull up at the side of the road and you say to people, you've not checked your mirrors, oh shit, I forgot. Stop forgetting. You might as well just point at them and go, be funny now, do it. You get the same result. So have a think about what is it you're trying to do. You're trying to showcase you at your work doing a great job. And doing a great job means seeing what the issue is and fixing it. So if she needs work with mirrors, work on mirrors. Then when that's fixed, you can put it back into junctions. So we can isolate stuff and really work on it. And I would say that requires, you know, driving down the road and seeing it in a straight line. Start with the basics. Is that mirror work good there? If it's not, fix it. Once you fix that, then start taking some basic turns. Is it not good there? Fix it. Then when that's fixed, then go on. But if we just keep doing stuff, hoping that we're going to get the chance to work on mirrors, they'll get overloaded by other stuff happening. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that at the end of a session, the people should learn something new, should get better at something we're already doing, or a light bulb comes on over their head where their behavior changes because they've seen that, oh, I don't need to do that, I need to do this. Sorry, that was a very long-winded answer, wasn't it? Hopefully that makes sense, Mike. It's, you know, really have a think about if it's not working. Here's a one for you. If it's not working, it's not the pupil's fault. It's ours.
Of course.
So if it's not working, do something else. Don't keep doing the same thing. If you keep doing what you've just done, you'll get what you just got.
But how could I, like, so imagine if I take that student for the ADI 3 test.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would just going on a straight line and asking her to keep checking the mirror. The examiner would think I'm a little bit mental or something.
Would he?
I don't know.
What makes you say that?
I don't know, because I thought we have to be like a more kind of like, you know, more complex kind of lesson.
It depends on the learner. If you take a full license holder, then yeah, they would look for some real advanced anticipation and forward planning and stuff. But if you're taking somebody who has shown you, like in the 10 or 15 minutes before the examiner gets in, if you're looking at that and think, well, now mirror work's rubbish here, right, we need to work on mirror work, fix the mirror work. I'm not saying do that for the whole 35, 40 minutes, but fix what needs fixing. And don't overcomplicate things, break things down into the component parts if it's needed.
Mm-hmm. So imagine, so during the test, and you, for example, like fixing the mirror, yeah, and then the pupil would stall. Would you address that and then switch to go fixing the stall, or how would you deal with that issue?
You could either add it to the plan, or you could replace it with the plan. And that would depend on how safety critical it was.
I see.
So what's
Thanks
caused the
so
stall?
much, Mike, for your question. We'll move on to another one if that's all right, because we've got so many.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Thank you. We've got so many still coming in, and I've got so many that got sent to me. So I want to try and get use as much of Bob time as we can. So the next one, this is a good one. What strategies can I use to adapt my lesson plan if the learner's needs change unexpectedly during the test?
Are we talking about needs here as in the teaching strategies are not working, or needs here that something else has come up that's caused that, like, you know, an issue somewhere has caused a meltdown? What is it we mean?
I think it's more about the adaptation. So what strategies can I use to adapt my lesson plan if the learner's needs change unexpectedly? So I think it's possibly if a safety critical happens and we now need to change it, we need to adapt.
Anything safety critical must be fixed.
What strategies can you suggest to help adapt?
It's dead easy. Well, you've shaved that parked car there. That's safety critical. We need to abandon what we're doing and fix that. So if we're talking about whose lesson is it on the day of your standards check or your part 3? Is it the learner's lesson or is it yours? I think we should go 50-50 because it's your test. I think there's a lot of nonsense talked about lesson adaptation. We should have a plan and then launch into it. A few minutes in, 5, 6, 7, we should ask ourselves the question, to ourselves and the learner, is the plan working? And if the answer is no or yes, adapt the lesson. Somebody said to me a little while ago, so What if the lesson doesn't need adapting? I said, I'm afraid it was a shit lesson. Because you should have a burst of activity if the plan is working. Brilliant. They either need less help or more of a challenge. Or you might be binning it because we're done with that, tick. If the plan isn't working, they need more help or less of a challenge. Or we're binning it because it's too much for us today. Let's break that down into component parts. So a lesson should be adapting constantly. Absolutely constantly. So in a 40-minute session, that lesson should adapt at least half a dozen times, if not 20. Well, maybe not 20, that's an exaggeration. But it should change constantly. It should never stand still. And this is where we sometimes fall down. And this is why it's a mistake to choose a subject rather than a skill. You choose a subject, we just plow away at that. And we're sometimes clouding what the real issues are.
Amazing, thank you. I'm not sure if the person who asked that is on tonight. I got that sent on Messenger. If you are, feel free to unmute.
If you're not here and you're watching the recording afterwards, fire a message across to me via Facebook Messenger. I'll happily engage.
Oh, fabulous. So the next one is from Lindsay. What are your thoughts on mock tests?
I don't like them.
Short and sweet. There you go, Lindsay. Does that answer your question? Would you like to unmute and ask anything further on that?
Thank you. Yeah, I don't like them either. But
Well, don't do them then.
Doing them. Well, it's just interesting to hear everyone's opinions. Obviously, I'm fairly new. I'm only about 6 months in on my green badge, but I've got absolutely loads of tests coming up now. I've only sat through a couple so far. And I've not been keen on the process of doing a mock test.
I think they can be useful.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for the pupil.
Yeah.
I think if you're 6 months in, the imposter syndrome is probably still strong within you.
Yep. Absolutely.
It shouldn't be. Don't worry about it. You're as good as everybody else on the screen here. A mock test could be great if it's a real test of what's going to happen. Yeah. And the easy way to do that is to team up with another ADI, and you both turn up at the test center or an appointed place with your learners, and the instructors change cars.
Yeah.
That's a real test now. Now, I always question it really. I think, well, why are we doing it? For you as a new ADI, it can be really useful, especially if you team up with an experienced body, so you can get a real idea about what other ADIs think test standard looks like. You'll start to see patterns. Other ADIs will see patterns in yours. Oh, yours are all a bit quick at roundabouts. Yours are all a bit slow. They're a bit this. So it can be helpful in terms of development. But I can't think of the last time I did a mock test and the pupil was happy at the end of it. Or it didn't set them back, half a lesson minimum. I don't think it's a good idea. The DVSA love it, but what do they know about teaching and learning? They think they know, but they don't.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering. I've had a lot of mixed thoughts on this, which is really interesting to hear. The way I've been doing it so far is just trying to get to the point where the independent driving is there, and how we can sort of reflect and discuss, and they can go really deep into what they're doing and why, and having that understanding. And I'm kind of hoping that that's enough at this stage. So
yours is a fantastic question for such a lot of reasons. But if I was to throw a question back at you and say, would you let a life partner coerce you into doing something you didn't want to do? Nope. Or why are you letting the DVSA do it?
Okay. Yeah.
You don't like mock tests, don't do them. Yeah. If they don't like it, well, they can sod off.
Yeah, that's it. It's just gauging the value of something at this stage. Is it something? And I agree with the point you said about, how to make someone feel really crap and point out all their faults. I don't want to be doing that at this stage. I want to be building the confidence up prior to.
Absolutely. Our job is to raise the levels of self-efficacy, the belief in themselves.
Okay.
So, there's times for it. And if a pupil wants it, I'll say, well, I'll do it. But if you can tell me what you think you're going to gain from it.
Yeah. That's really helpful. Thank you.
You are most welcome.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thanks.
Our next question, in the standards check test, this applies for both, whether you're PDI or ADI, part 3 standards check test, after you've discussed or done the deep thinking and figure out the problem, the issue gets solved in 10 to 15 minutes and we still have 35 minutes left. How do we start a new goal with full briefing, etc., or anything else?
Good one. They wouldn't want something that required a full briefing. You'll get nailed for that. They've made it clear they don't want that. So if you're going to start something new, it has to be something that isn't going to require a lot of time sat at the side of the road. Now that restricts us in some way, so that's a limitation of the test, unfortunately. But there's a myriad of things we could be doing. So I'll give you an example. I sat in on this exam. We did 20 minutes of independent driving and pulled over to have a chat about it. And it was going great. And the pupil and the instructor both agreed, being fantastic. Things had gone really well. And I was expecting them to not go, the pupil saying, I was expecting them not to go so well with these two in the back. So he said, okay, that's great. What do you want to do now? Well, I'd like to do more of the same. So they just continued with the independent driving. And of course, he failed. What should have happened was, should have looked at that and thought, okay, we've nailed that. Let's elevate the challenge. Let's do that using the sat nav. Let's do that route in reverse. Let's just do something different. Or a handy one to always add in or to have up your sleeve is forward planning and anticipation. It applies to every driver at every level. So you can always pull that one out of the bag. But get used to dotting and changing around. You know, I observe a lot of lessons where we keep ploughing on when the pupil is clearly out of their depth, and I'll stop and I'll say, right, what's happening here? Why are we keeping doing this? Well, that's what we're working on today. Yeah, but it's too much for them. Why don't you break it into smaller chunks? Well, I don't want to give up on the topic. You know, on the exam, I'll get nailed for that. Who's told you that? So there's a lot of nonsense around, you know. And if you're going for one of these tests, download the DT one. It's free. It's on the DVSA's website. It's on the gov.uk website. And you can see what the examiners are looking for and what they're told to be looking for. And it's not what the industry thinks it is. God, that was long. Did I answer the question? I went off at several tangents there, didn't I? You'll have to forgive me, boys and girls. I can't help myself.
You did, definitely. And I think it links to what you were saying earlier, like don't teach subjects, teach skills. If you're teaching skills and you've developed a skill, let's look at the next skill that we can develop, because you will have already had some prior knowledge on it. You shouldn't be then doing a 10-minute briefing on your part through or standards check. Absolutely. So a question that I missed, thank you for reposting it. Are the waiting times for a part 3 test months and months? Facebook groups have put the fear out there. Is it possible for 2 tests within a year?
I wish I knew the answer to that. They're losing examiners faster than they can recruit, which is unfortunate. And I don't know what they're going to do about it. I just don't. There's been no audit inspections for, when did I do my last one? 2019. They started doing a little handful of them, then they stopped again, and now it's just been suspended. So everybody who's on the audit register hasn't had an inspection, or not many of them have. So I can proclaim myself to be an audit trainer, and yet I've not done an inspection. That's a nonsense. So they should start at that, you know, they say it's all about raising standards. We'll get all the audit trainers inspected first, start at the top, and that'll trickle down. You'll start at the bottom with the L test. You know, it's all very well and good them saying they're going to get the waiting times down for L test, but then there'll be no bloody qualified ADIs to teach the learners at the end of it. There's no joined up thinking. And it's always, you know, not my fault, governor. It needs a law change. So I don't know what's going to happen. I wish I did. Better shower and just start. And I've said it publicly on many occasions. You
have, yeah, definitely. Hopefully that answers your question, that there's no real answer. You've had a couple of people reply to you saying it's kind of area specific on your tests. So
it's sometimes it's just luck that they release a block of tests.
And Carl has put some really great advice saying just don't listen to Facebook. That's a really good answer to that as well.
Yeah. Good one, Carl. You're right.
Today I was working on hesitations at roundabouts. My learner drifted the lane inside roundabout. Drifted lanes on the roundabout. Will this be safety critical and need adaptation?
Yes.
There you go. Nice and simple. Yes.
But that's the one you can add to your existing plan, isn't it? Because you're doing that anyway.
Would you, is it Camel, would you like to unmute and elaborate any further?
I think, yeah, I think he answered the question. So I can just add it to the plan, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think, yeah. So
If
it's
you
not
were stuck, if you were stuck not knowing whether to add it or replace the existing plan, replace the existing plan, and then come back to what you were working on. Anything safety critical has to be fixed. 100% has to be fixed.
Yeah. But because I'm working on the roundabout, it's simply I can just add it to the plan, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I don't. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome.
Is it Taimur, you've asked, you've said you've got a question. Would you like to unmute? I've requested for you to unmute so that you can ask your question.
Hello, you okay? Yeah, how do you mean?
Good evening, good evening.
Hello, good evening. Hi, Bob. Are you okay?
I'm all the better for speaking to you.
Yeah, the first time I, joined that meeting, right? So just because of the free, probably that's why. And I've never been had an experience before, right? So just, come to the point. I got part 3 tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
And yeah, tomorrow, right? So I'm pretty much okay, right? So one of the DVSA, examiner observed me my lesson today. I'm just taking another one different student tomorrow. And she pretty much is almost, there for the test tender. I'm just, bit confused with her, right? So what topic and, need to be taken out, to over here, which is I plan, right? So, taking as a roundabout as a tool, and whatever she had, last couple of lessons, she made a mistake. So try to ask her what she want to develop on particular the day, right? So, and weakness of her, sometimes she not looking the left mirror. Rest of pretty much is okay with the mirrors as well, as you discussed as over here. So the mirrors to be need to fix. Sorry.
Anything that manifests itself as safety critical.
Yeah, no, really, right? So she look mirrors sometime after the signal, or she not like the routine to be followed, but she did pretty much okay, like about 70%, 60% is okay. Some occasions, not looking the left mirror, especially change of direction, right? So as you said, this one, right? So if the that exam go 10-20 minutes, okay, I know she independent driving, and put some challenge on it, right? So and my question is there, I haven't discussed the limit point before, because she just only had about 6-7 lesson with me, right? So she have a private training as well, and with a partner. And is that possible I can discuss the limit point, how to handle the limits point while in the the 3-4 minutes before to on the same time of the test. We
so
like
what is it?
as a challenge, right? So if you do the roundabouts, independent driving about 10-20 minutes, so that be okay with it, right? So can I add the limit points in there to make it a bit more challenging to work on it, to develop the skills how to handle the bends?
Whose lesson is that then?
The students, if she agree.
What if she doesn't?
If she doesn't agree, so I'm going to ask her whatever she want to do. I'm ready for everything.
Okay. Limit point's a useful tool if the person is ready for it, but limit point is a pretty advanced technique. So it would take a good learner, and learners can handle it, don't get me wrong, and I do use it as part of my training. I think we need to be, what the examiner's asking himself is this the lesson that this pupil needs today, right now, in this situation that we're in? Because that might change from 10 minutes to 10 minutes. The learner needs a different lesson now. This has become too much. This has become too easy. So we need to be monitoring what's going on and making the change accordingly. You can't over plan. Well, if this works, I'm going to do this, then this. You've got to have all these things up your sleeve ready to do them. But it really has to be the lesson that learner needs in that moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically need to ask the need of the student, what she wants to do actually on the day. Not
what she wants to do, but what she needs.
Needs actually.
Not always the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So look for the, get going with it, because I haven't any structure, any plan. I'm just gonna go what she, we need to be do on the day. Let's say she's driving and she leaving something to fix it. I'm gonna try to fix it. That's all about, right? So, and if she have nothing to fix it, probably I'm gonna challenge her. This is the basic plan to do.
That's a good plan, but what I can promise you is that once she realizes there's an examiner in the car, there'll be things for you to fix.
Yeah.
Best of luck for tomorrow. Let us know how you get on.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
And we've got 1 minute to go, so we've had quite a few questions, but I'm going to go to the last one that I got sent in. How do you tackle the don't know response in a client-centered coaching manner?
Dead easy. So if I ask a question and the learner says, I don't know, I pause and say to them, if you did know, what would you say? Nearly all the time you'll get something back. If I still get, I don't know, say, well, what's your best guess? So what we need to know, really, to get over this is, why are people saying they don't know? Is it because they don't know? Very rarely. It's because it's a defense mechanism that we've learned at school. When the teacher asks a question, if you want letting off the hook, you just say, don't know, sir, don't know, miss. And the teacher moves on. So that's why we're doing it. It's because they don't trust us. They don't trust themselves. They fear judgment. They fear failure. So in order to get over it and to have the perfect relationship that you need for client-centered learning or for coaching, we need a contract. How's this all going to work then? So I would normally go through the terms, and if you want to see me doing it, go on LDC's YouTube channel and look at the first lesson with any of those learners on there. You'll see me doing this. I go through the terms and conditions, and then I would just say, okay, what happens if I'm late? What happens if you're late? What happens if I cancel? What happens if you cancel? Because they think you're going to get paid if they cancel. They don't know any different. Why would they know any different? It's like, people get upset when, I've had a learner phone me today and say they've got a test tomorrow and they're looking for an instructor. Well, how are they supposed to know that there's no instructors available? They've never done it before. They don't wind your neck in. So we need this relationship building. So I would just say, right, so how are we going to work together? Let's see how that is. They'll nearly always at that point go, well, I'm not really sure. So, well, all right then. Is it all right if I shout at you? No. Right. Okay. And I'll give them a piece of paper. I'll draw a line down the middle. I say, we're going to write down on this side things you want and don't want. Can I shout at you? No, write it down. What about if I raise my voice a bit then? No, I don't want you to all can write it down. Well, you're making life hard for me here. So if I can't shout, I can't raise my voice, is it okay if I make you feel crap if you make a mistake? No. Right, so how are we going to deal with that then? If something's gone wrong, how are we going to go about it? How about we have a conversation to see if there's stuff we can learn from it? All right. Now, in order for me to learn things from it, I need to know what's going on inside your mind. So you need to be open and honest with me. And if I ask you a question, give us your best answer. All right, okay. And then once we've gone through all of that stuff, I'll say, right, I'll give you everything that's on your side of that piece of paper if you promise me that you'll always do your best. How's that? And then away we go. We both sign it and off we go. And if you look at the relationship that you see me with these learner drivers, they trust me. And they have that openness about them. That one's the best moment that describes it. The ownership that they feel about it is with Danielle when I dual brake her. And I say, now then, that was me on the brake. Why do you think I did that? She said, is it because you're old and nervous? Well, yeah. What is it you think that made me nervous about that situation though? And then we got a nice conversation going about it. I hope, did that answer the question?
That absolutely answered it. Yeah, thank you. And it's a really great way to to finish this Ask Becky and Bob special. Where can people find you, Bob, if they want more of you?
clientcenteredlearning.co.uk.
Amazing.
Bob
Thank you.
at Client Centered. I'm on Facebook. You can't miss me. I'm like horse muck. I'm everywhere.
You're everywhere. That's just how we like you. Thank you so much for joining us. Have you enjoyed it?
That's been good fun. I can't. An hour's gone very quickly. So if you've got questions that didn't get answered, feel free to just fire them across to me.
Or you can pop them in the group as well. I'll put a post up when I upload this to YouTube. Stick the link in the group. If you've got any other questions, you could stick them in there. And there's loads of people on the group that could offer help as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. It's been really nice to see you all. I hope you have a really lovely Tuesday evening, and we'll see you all soon. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.